Pleased to be joined right now by veteran tennis journalist and my broadcast partner from like 8 million years ago at ESPN International, Cindy Shmerler. I seem to remember we called like Doha in a windowless room up in Bristol. Is that how you remember it?
That's exactly how I remember it, except we pretended we were there, and it was very, very hot, as I recall. You were a fantastic partner, and I've loved watching you ever since.
As were you, Cindy.
Hey, Cindy, you've been around the tennis world for so long and you've seen so much. So you had a front row seat to watch Steffi Graf win the Golden Slam. What was your best memory from that year, 1988?
It's funny because I started following Steffi when she was only 12 and playing in an exhibition in Laredo, Mexico. 1988, to me, was the single greatest season in tennis for one player's performance. To win not only a Grand Slam, but to win a Golden Slam by winning the Olympics. And look at the players she beat. Chrissy Evert, Natasha Zvereva, she said after that 32-minute match, I felt badly that it was so quick. Then to beat Martina on Martina's home court at Wimbledon, Sabatini at the U.S. Open, and then again at the Olympics. But the interesting thing about that to me was that Graf afterwards said there was no joy, there was no elation. She was just relieved. And it was the same thing that Rod Laver said after he won in 1969, his second Grand Slam. In fact, that night, Graf didn't celebrate. I remember saying to her, what are you going to do? You going to go out and party? She said, what are you kidding me? I'm getting on the next flight home and then I'm heading to Seoul. The best part about it, though, was 88 was the 50-year anniversary of Don Budge's Grand Slam. Don followed Steffi every single final that she played that year. And when she got to the U.S. Open and Don had whispered in her ear, I know you're going to win a lot of Grand Slams. He wanted to present her with the trophy, but the USTA had a very specific protocol and they wouldn't let him. They let him hold on to part of the trophy while USTA President Gordon Jorgensen, he presented it to Steffi Graf that day.
That's a great story. Hey, yesterday on Tennis Channel, we had to rank the top 10 women of all time. And I've got to tell you, Cindy, every time I struggle with it. Is it Martina? Is it Steffi who should be ranked higher? They both had incredible careers. Who do you think had a better career?
Well, are you throwing Serena in there as well? Because there are so many who say Serena is the GOAT of all time. Serena has had a much longer career. Steffi retired at 30 years old. In that time, she reached 3 major finals a year, 5 times. Serena's only done it twice. And I know that I'm very controversial in this, but to my mind, Steffi Graf has the greatest career in women's tennis history.
Huh, that's interesting. I always figured everybody thought Serena was at the top anyway, and I was looking for 2 or 3. That's it. That's a good insight there. But
I would give you in there Martina. Certainly, she had an extraordinary career, particularly 1983. One match shy of a Grand Slam, losing to Kathleen Horvath at the French Open in the round of 16.
Yeah, exactly. So I want to go to Monica Seles because we know in the spring of 93, she was just gathering up Grand Slam after Grand Slam, just dominating. And then, of course, that unfortunate incident where a spectator came on court and changed the course of history. That might be the biggest what if in tennis history. Do you think that Seles possibly could have gone on to be the greatest ever?
Oh, absolutely. And I think you're right. Those what ifs, the Jimmy Connors, the Rod Laver not being able to play. But Monica Seles won 3 majors in 91 and 92. 93, she won her first. And then, of course, taken out in Hamburg, Germany by that crazed fan who stabbed her in the back because he wanted to see Steffi Graf return to #1. Monica had an uncanny ability to literally dismantle opponents without ever looking back. She moved beautifully around the court. She was so deceptive. And to my mind, yes, had Monica been able to play, you could easily make the argument. Unfortunately, that's one of those we'll never know. We'll just never know. And remember, she reached the final of her first major back after 28 months away from the game.
We are joined on TC Live by veteran tennis journalist and commentator Cindy Shmerler. There's been a lot of discussion, Cindy, about the relief funds that are being set up for players and lower-ranked players and doubles players and that sort of thing. But I think it's worth commenting, and I know you've spoken about this, that there's a whole community of other people that are tangentially connected to tennis that are being affected by this as well.
Yeah, I think we spend so much time talking about this relief fund and the top players. graciously offering to give money, particularly among the men. You know, the women, by the way, have not asked their players to donate anything. They're doing it among themselves, the WTA. And the man, obviously, Roger, Rafa, Novak offering. But I always say, spare a thought for all of those other people. What about the linesmen and the umpires who are out of work, the statisticians, the vendors who sell both the food and the programs at events? And what about all of those ushers who made their living, put their kids through college by the tips that they got at the U.S. Open as they sat fans in their seats? And to my mind, the biggest loss are all of those elderly volunteers, those wonderful people who were at Delray Beach or at Flushing Meadows, who lived all year long just to be able to greet their friends and greet the fans. So I always say, spare a thought for them, because they're really the losers right now.
Great point to finish on, Cindy. Thanks very much for spending some time. Stay safe, and I do want you to know that when this show re-airs, we're going to edit out the UPenn logo that's over your shoulder. We cannot,
How did you know?
we can't have it. I'm just joking. Thanks, Cindy. We'll see you soon.